Hello and welcome to TOTECS, the platform for integrated e-commerce websites. Today I'll be taking you through the latest changes we've made to the TOTECS platform in the 11.01 release. If you are not aware, every 6 to 12 weeks, the TOTECS R&D team release out a number of new features, improvements and bug fixes into the platform as part of the service that TOTECS provides to all of its customer base. These changes can then be utilized on any websites hosted on the platform, helping the websites to stay up to date, competitive and providing great e-commerce experiences. In the 11.01 release, 2 new features have been added to the platform, as well as 13 improvements and 9 bug fixes. You can find out information about all these new changes by going to the forums, TOTECS Forums, and then looking into the release notes, which can be found there. Links will be placed to the forums on this YouTube video clip in the description. Now let's get into the detail of the 11.01 release. We'll look at the first new feature that has been added, and that's the ability to set more search engine friendly URLs within the content managed websites for products, categories, news blog items, makes, and models. So this can help boost presence and ranking of public web pages within search engines such as Google or Bing. Here I have an example site called demo.totecs.com, and this site sells beer-related craft products. So on the homepage, on the left-hand side, we have a catalog area that shows all the categories, as well as we have flagged products areas that show products that have been highlighted for users to take a specific note. So we have specials flagged products, and we also have new products flags. So if we look at the URLs of the current site, so I'll just navigate through to the category structure. So in this current format, the category URL contains multiple slashes as well as the name of the web page, then a cat prefix to denote this is a category page, and then the actual name of the categories itself. The problem with this URL structure is the search engines will see multiple folders before they actually see the page. So this denotes it's a third tier page. By being a third tier page, it doesn't have the most prominence within the website. What the new feature within the platform does is remove the catalog and the cat prefixes. So we've just purely got the category name within the URL. And this means that this page will become a top tier page within this demo.totecs.com website and give it extra importance from the search engine's point of view, and then it may get ranked higher. So we've changed the URL structures for not just categories, for products as well. So here's an example of all the different URLs on how the old way works, as well as how the new way works. So for a product URL, we would have a longer URL that would have this suffix underscore item, so that no longer needs to be there anymore, as well as to get rid of the page name. For news blogs items, you no longer need the page name, you just purely have the search engine ID of the news blog item, or of the news blog's item ID. For the makes or manufacturers, we get rid of the page name for the makes, and then same for the models. In order to do this, by default, this new feature will not be turned on within the within any project on the website, so we'd need to get that set up within the admin center. Now to do that, first you'd need to log into the admin center. So here's one I prepared earlier. We would go into the websites area. Now, if we look back at those URLs, if we no longer have the page name within the URL, the platform needs to know for a product which page should that product appear on. So in order to do that, we need to set up some defaults within the website. So if you click on the domain of that content managed website, there's some new settings that have been added where you can say what is the default page within that website where categories will be listed on. So we'll set this to catalog. For products, would set that to, could also be a catalog page, since if it has a product detail area. For news blogs items, we may have a area that's specifically, or a page that's specifically meant to handle that. So we have this page called news and events. For makes, would have a page set up for that, and the same corresponding page for models. Now, once that's set up, we would save that. So that's the first step, and there's 3 steps to making this work. The second step is to turn on a new setting which has been created within the website settings area. And if we go to the bottom of the page, a new setting has been added called Allow Web Page URL Routing SEO. So if this is turned on, then we can allow these shorter URLs to be set in the content managed website. So I'll turn that on, and I'll click the Save button. Once that setting has been saved, we'll go back into the websites. And the last step of this is to actually change in each of the areas that create the URLs in order to tell them which page should those links go to. So if we go to the catalog, go to any of the pages we have, such as the home page, we view the all areas. So the area that controls those categories that appear on the home page, which is, so there's an area that controls just purely these category links, which is this area called Global Catalog. There's now a setting for the category link to set it as the website default. So this option will only appear once that web page routing setting has been turned on. So we do that. Now, once we've done that, we just click to assign that. If we go back to the demo site and we go back to the home page, the URLs should now change so that way we no longer have the category. In this case, it was catalog and then cat bar accessories. That now has been altered to be purely just bar accessories, and we can still see the page is displaying how it did previously. Now we would have to do this, go through to each area on the website and then change the URLs so that way the area knows. So for product links, where does the product links have to go to, and change that back to the website default. So when that happens, then all the settings are going to be dictated by those pages, or the URLs are going to be dictated by the pages that are configured here. Now this works great when you've only got one page which is designed to show all the categories, one page designed to show all the products, one page to show all the makes and the models. What happens if you have multiple pages? Say you want, for a specific category, you want to create a specific page which is designed to show only that category. And that's when we get into the new feature which has been added into the content manager side called web page URL routing. So a new option has been added to the website trees link. So if we click on that, what we can do here is we can say for a specific product or a specific category that when it is shown through the Content Manager website, it needs to go to a different page. So if we go back to our demo site, so we got this category called bar accessories. Now we may not want it to go to the catalog page that we had previously. We may want that to go to a separate page. So we put in the bar accessories code here. We go, what page should it be shown on? Now you might want to take it back to the makes page for whatever reason. Now typically you're going to set up a dedicated page for bar accessories, but we'll just show the example how this works. So we add what we call a URL route that says if in the URL it contains the code bar underscore accessories, then the page that is going to display is going to be the makes page, as opposed to the normal catalog page that we set up for the entire website. So when we see that and we click on this, you'll see that now it is no longer showing the catalog page for that specific bar accessories category. It's now taking it to the manufacturer's page. So we can do all kinds of weird and complex and wonderful URL routing so that way different pages show depending on what has been set within the URL of the web page. So in this case, this is actually linked to a make model searching facility where you can actually go through, all right, so there's been some models makes set up. So Cooper's is a make or manufacturer, and then it has some models for each of the years of parallels, and then you can go in there and then view the products for that specific model. So that shows the functionality of the make model. More of the point here is how you can control which pages for which specific categories or which specific products will display. So you might have a page here for specifically beer that may be styled to be completely different from all the other category pages. And you might do that because you've got some specific information that needs to be tweaked in beer, whereas all the other page can be used the same website structure. So if we go back to the website, so you can set this up. So if you knew a specific product and you wanted to create, you could create a specific product page that could then control that. Now you can do that for both products. You can do it for a collection of products within a specific category. You can do this routing. You can do it for news, blog items, makes, models. And there's this other option for general. So we've got a page here called new products. And now what I might do is I want to say when the URL contains such as new items. Now there isn't any web page within the Content Manager website called new items. Now previously there may have been, but somebody's changed that page name from new items to new products. Now because say e-marketing has been sent out, where a newsletter has been sent out with a link to the old URL structure, because the page name has changed, then if somebody clicked on that email link, they would have been directed to a page not found or a blank page. So using this routing that we've added, we can now handle that. So if I add that new rule, that means that if somebody types new items into the URL, they're going to be directed to the new products page, but it's still going to appear as new items within the URL, as we can see here. So this is a great way if you go through and start changing the names of your pages, that you can still keep the old page names here remembered, and then the user still sees the content for URLs that are maybe old or outdated or sent or saved in emails or any kind of links or messages, but your website has been altered. Now, because we've changed the actual URL structure of this website now, this can cause some issues with the way the search engines rank. So previously, the search engine would have found this category or this product URL structure, and it would have put a rank on the content within that page. Now, because we've changed the URL structure for this website, the search engine would no longer see this page, but see a completely different page for the same product. Now, what we want to do is we want to transfer the rankings from the search engine from this page to another page. And the way to do that is to set up redirects in place. So before you turn on this setting for existing sites wanting to use this new URL structure, we recommend you contact our service team, where they can set up redirects between your old URL structures and the new URL structures to ensure that the search engine rankings from the old page is transferred to the new page structure. And that will ensure that your search engine rank does not get dropped when this new feature is turned on. Ideally, you want these URL structures to contain as many search engine keywords as possible within the URL. So you can see here, these are fairly good URLs because we've got search terms such as leader, maturation, keg, and teak. So if somebody was searching for those keywords in Google, we've got a good chance of this product page coming up. But if your URL structure contains random numbers and letters, the chances of somebody typing in that code are next to none. So it's important when you set up this new structure that you set up the search IDs against the products, the categories, the news blogs, items, makes, and models to make sure that they have search-friendly terms. Now, to do that, if we go back into the admin center, there's fields that are available. So in the product editor, we could just bring up any product that we had before. So there's this field called search engine code. So at the moment, this is set to test for this 10,001 product. So ideally, we would want to change that search code to be far more, to have more search-friendly keywords. And you typically want to remove the spaces and put in the dashes. So the platform will put this search engine code into the URLs to make sure that we have keywords within the URL structure. And then that can be matched by terms that users would typically search on. So it's not just items. There's also in the categories, you've got to set up your category codes so that have terms that people would search on, as well as blogs, news and blogs. So in this case, you can set up within the news blogs section. If you go into a news blog item, within the details, you can set this SEO search code. So it's important to get this all set up so that way you're targeting keywords that users would normally search for. The same goes for the makes and the models. If we go into there, we can set up SEO fields there. If they're not set, then the system will revert back to the IDs sent against the models or the products or the categories which don't contain the SEO-friendly URLs. So it's really important to set this data up in your system so that way you can target the keywords that are going to get you the most users coming to your site. Now, what happens if you've got a model that contains a search engine ID, which is the same as a product? So if we go back into our product search, say for this item here, I had the same SEO code, Cooper's Pale Ale 2016, for both the product and the model. The platform will have to choose between whether it shows the product or the model page on the website. So if we put that search term into it, so the platform has a hierarchy on which it will try to find the relevant entity which the page would show for. It goes in the order where first it will try to find a product matching this term, and if it can't find a product, then it will try to find a category that matches that term, and if it can't do that, then it will look for a news blog item, and if it can't do that, it will look for a make, and then it'll look for a model. You want to try to avoid setting the same SEO codes for your makes and models and products and categories. Ideally, they should be all different and unique. And then you got no chances of having any conflicts or having the wrong page show for the wrong URL. The next new feature that's been added into the TOTECS platform is the ability to host Git version controlled repositories in any content managed websites deployed on the platform. So Git, don't let the name fool you, is a widely popular technology used to version control a collection of files and folders known collectively as a repository. These repositories allow multiple people to work on the same set of files at the same time and track any changes that have been made to the files and folders. So typically Git has been used in software development projects in order to allow large sets of files, such as code files, in order to be shared and manipulated and changed by lots of people at the same time without running into issues where files have been deleted or that somebody's overridden the change of another person. So the platform now allows these version-controlled repositories to be created under any given content managed website within the system. So we can see this because there's been a new icon that's been added to the website's tree structure, and it's called version controlled repositories. So if we wanted to create a new version controlled repository, we would just go into here, would give it a unique name, such as, let's call it website files. Now there's two kinds of repositories or collection of files that you can create. You can either create a public repository, and that means the files that are saved within it can be accessible through a URL in the web browser. And a private repository means the files can only be accessible by administrators who have access to download a full repository. So for now, we'll set up a public repository and click the create button. So once a repository has been created, it contains a URL to that repository, which you can see here. The next step is to copy that repository. And then what we need to do on our own computer is we need to install some Git Client Software, some software that sits on the computer, so that way it can pull down the files and folders which is stored in this repository. So think of these repositories as like more smarter and advanced image and attachment libraries. Now, in order to get the repository onto our local machine, so what we're going to do is this repository here called website files is going to get pulled or downloaded down to each computer for where the people are allowed to modify those files in their own machines. Now, to do that, we need to get a Git client or the Git software onto our local machine. So first we need to download Git itself, and there'll be a link into this YouTube clip. So we just go to, if you type in Git for Windows and the first link, and then we can download, in this case I'm running a 64-bit version of Windows, so just click on that, let that download and install. So with the Git software now downloaded, we just need to go through the process of installing it. So here we go, just install it. It needs to install a few things in the back end of Windows to make sure everything plays nice, and we'll allow it to go through the command line prompt. And we can just pretty much go through all these defaults. Nothing really needs to be changed here. And that'll install in your Windows system. Alright, now that has been installed, that's great. Now I'm using Windows, and the best Git client I've seen is this open source software called Tortoise GIT. We need to download this into our own machine. So we just find the download links on the Git Tortoise GIT site, and then that will start to download. Now, if you're using a Mac or a Linux, then you cannot use Tortoise GIT because it's only Windows only, but there are other Git clients out there, and one for Linux that I use a lot is called GitG, which is a package that can be installed with Linux, and there's command line tools that you can also download and install if your operating system doesn't have any Windows-based software that you can use. So once Tortoise GIT has been downloaded, we just need to install it on our Windows machine. So we just follow the prompts. So we'll continue on, accept all the prompts. Let's go through that. Okay, now Tortoise GIT has now been installed. So what Tortoise GIT does is it installs right into Windows. So if you right click on a file, there's a new item there where you can see Git options. So what we want to do is first set up a folder within our computer. Say I'm just going to create it under my documents, but you could create it anywhere you want. And let's just call it Git Repos, as in short for Git Repositories. Now under here, I could have multiple Git repositories stored. And so the first one I want to do is the one that we just created in the administration center. So I want to get this one here. So we copy that URL that we had before, and then once we go into there, we can then go into Git clone, which will then ask where is the repository that we want to download to our local machine. Now, when we set this up, Tortoise is going to ask for the username and password in order to download that repository. So that's going to be the username of one of the users who's an administrator within your TOTECS website. So in this case, we may want to create a new user, which is designed so that way you can authenticate who gets access to this repository or not. So we just call a user called Git tester. Now you don't need to create a new user. You could use existing users if you wanted to. It's completely up to you on how you want people to access your repositories on your website. So we just need to make sure that that user is an admin user, and then we can create that user. And we put the user's details into here. Now, Tortoise Git has been able to successfully download the repository into my local machine here, and it's put this into website files. Now, so the next stage is once you've got a repository is to start placing some files and folders within it. So typically in a website, I'm going to have a folder for storing images. I'm going to have another folder for storing CSS, so files that style the website. I'm going to have another folder for styling or storing JavaScript files. So we would create a folder there. Then in images, I might have a couple of subdirectories. So I might have a folder called banners. And I might have another folder be called maybe page layout. So images that are got to do with designing your page layout. After creating these folders, then we've got to put some files into them. So I'll just copy across some files that I've got sitting around on my computer. So we'll go into the images, put a couple of banners in. So we chuck them in there. And then we'll go into the JavaScript folder, and then we'll stick in a file there. What we'll see is these question mark icons against these folders. Now, if you're not seeing any icons, then you may need to restart your computer, so that way Windows starts up with Tortoise running in the back end in the beginning. But these question marks are saying, Tortoise Git saying that these folders have not been added to the repository. Next step is to add the file. So we go into this file, click on the Tortoise Git and click on the add, and then click on the OK button. So that will then add this file. And now once a file has been added, you'll see a lovely plus icon saying that it has been added to the repository. But that's only step 1 of 3 steps. The next step is to actually commit this file. Now what Git may ask you on the first time you are trying to commit a file is, who are you committing as? So Tortoise Git is saying you should supply your name and email address, so that way other people, when they look at these files that you're adding to the repository, know who you are and what you're doing. So I might just say I am John Smith, and then I have my email address is john@example.com. Now, in some Git repositories, by putting your email address in is when you commit a file or a folder, or you push all your changes back to the central repository, a notification will be sent to all the other people telling them that you have made a change to the repository and that they should be aware of it. So that's why you would be providing your email information here. And we'll just use the defaults for the sign-in key. So once we're done, Tortoise SVN will be happy, and then it will now allow you to commit a file. Now, what committing a file is, you're saying what changes, what things have you done to this file, and provide a brief message of what those changes are. So within TOTECS, we use a guideline where when we commit stuff that we committed against an issue, because we have an issue management system. So you'll see in the release notes, everything has this TOT and a certain number. And this allows us to, in the comments of the files being changed, know what that issue relates to. So this might be a website being set up, so it may have a title called website setup. So we put the issue number and the name of that issue as well, to make it easier for people to read through the logs in the repositories later. And the other thing that we typically do is we say within each file, what have we done? So we will list each file and go, this file we have added the file to style the demo.totecs.com website. And for the next file, because we are committing 2 changes here, not just one, we're committing changes for the layout CSS file and then also for the slicker.js. So what have we done with here? So in this case, both these files are being added. We'll go through, list the files and what changes, and then what this JavaScript file has been added for. So we might use this slicker to display pop-ups in the demo website. All right, once we're happy with our comment, and then we click the commit button. Now what that has done is it's committed the changes only to your local repository. It hasn't actually pushed them up to the server yet. That's the final step in the process. So you can see now we have this nice little green tick, so it's saying that this file in your local repository has had no changes to it and it has been committed in. So we'll just go through this. So we've got another image file here that we need to also add to the repository. So we'll go through the same thing again. We'll add these files. Now they're added, we need to also commit. So when you've added a file or a folder to a branch, you may see this red icon appear, and this is saying that there's been changes that have been made to your local repository but have not yet been committed. So we need to do something about them. In this case, we need to commit them in. So once again, we'll go through and write another message. All right, so we commit all those changes, and the final step is to actually push all your changes that you've been made up into the repository that is stored under the Content Manager website on the server. So we have this concept of push, and then it's going to ask a few questions about which branch. So you won't get into details of branching, but we'll just use the master because that's the one that appears on the server. And then we click OK. And so those files have then been pushed up to the master, and a success has happened. So the server now, if we go back to the website, and we go back into the version control repositories, we should now see the files have been, those folders that we created have been now placed on the server, and now you can see the relevant files and folders that have been added. Now because this is a public repository, we can now click on these icons and now see the actual file that is on the server. So if we wanted to, we can now grab the URL of this file that we just pushed up in our repository, and then we could now embed that into a page. So let's say we've got the makes page. We may create a new free draw area, and within this area we might actually embed an image. So we just put in the URL, and now that area, we'll just save that area. And now we've got an image that appears on this make model web page that has been pushed up from a repository on our local machine. So this shows you an example of how you can alter and make changes to the files on your local machine and push them up to the server without actually having to log into the administration center at all. Once these files have been pushed up, we may want to put in another file change again. So we'll go back into here. Maybe we alter that file. We'll make a few changes in the editor. So here's the CSS file which controls the styling, and we might say this header contains another line of code, such as display equals block, and we make our changes. So once the changes to the file have been made, you'll see that it's got the red icon again saying that there are uncommitted changes to that file, so we have to go through the commit process again. Within the file itself, we can see what changes have we made to the file since it last was pulled down from our local repository. So if we go to commit, so Tortoise SVN has this comparison tool where we can look at the old file, which is on the left-hand side, and the new file, which is on the right-hand side, and can see what changes have we made to the file since it was last committed and pulled down. So in this case, you can see there's one new line that has been added. So this comparison tool is really helpful. So when other people are making changes to the file, you can see what changes they are making. So we're happy with that. We commit it. That's all good. Now Tortoise makes it nice and easy to for the flow to go fast. So the logical step after committing a file is to then push it back up to the server so we can go through that process. And then now it's now happy. And then on the server side, that file would have been updated to contain our new line, which has been added there. Now, certain browsers and in public repositories, not all browsers will show the latest changes in the files, because browsers like to cache or remember old files. So you cannot guarantee that if I upload a change to the layout that's pushed up to the server, that all browsers using this web page with that file will get the latest version. And the only way to get around that is to change the file name of the file with it, in all the references of the templates web pages where it is being used. So you just got to be aware of that, that there are browsing caching going on, and you have to come up with strategies around to make sure that they're downloading the latest files that you have been pushed up. If we do the same process, but we do it for we create another repository, but we will create it for a private repository. Now, private repositories, we don't want the files to be downloadable, so you can't click on a URL in order to download and see the contents of this file. Now, to do that, we would just create another version control library. So we click on the new version control repositories, give it a name such as, let's say, maybe website data would be a private repository that store the contents or CSV or spreadsheet files of your website that is relevant only to the website administrator. So we'll make it private and we create that. Now we get the URL again. So then we go back to our computer. Now we'll create a separate folder for this other repository, and we'll then clone it again, and then we stick our URL in. Now, this by default is going to create a folder called 15 because that's the ID of this private repositories. You might want to give this a meaningful name on your own local machine, so we might make it to be consistent with what the name is on the server side. So it's website data. Now that's going to clone that to the local machine as well. And now you can see we've got now 2 repositories stored on our local computer. So in this case, I will say I'll create a new subfolder and I'll call it maybe product data, maybe a good example. And within that, we'll stick in a spreadsheet file. So once again, we have to then add this directory. So we'll add this file. So now it is version controlled. We'll commit it, so we'll give it a message. So, all right, so now that is going to be committed in, and now it's going to be pushed to the server as well. So we'll go through there, go back into the context menu, do a push, and then push that back up to the server. Back on the content managed side, we can then go back into this website data repository. You can see that it has the lock symbol to note that it's a private repository. Now you can see that the folder that I just created on my computer is now appearing here, but you cannot click on the link to see the file because it is a private repository. It cannot be accessed through the browser, this file. So the only way to alter or view the actual contents of this file is to pull the changes from the repositories down into your local machine using your Git client installed. Whereas the public ones, you can open those files and go nuts. Now, in both cases, administrators cannot delete or cannot add files directly through the admin center. They can only do that through downloading or pulling or cloning the repositories onto the local machines and altering the content there. This ensures that administrators cannot accidentally change folders or accidentally change the files without anyone else knowing, because they need to have the awareness of being able to change data in the repositories themselves. And then you can also see a history of all the content and all the files that have been changed. So if we go into any repository, you can go into this show log area, and then we can see all the comments that have been made and what has been changed. So you can see all the commits that I've done previously, adding out the new files, how I was styling and adding these different files here. And then through the log, you can see what changes were made within that one commit. So this is a way to track and log who was committing what files onto the server, and you'll see those different people with different names. Now, the final part to this is what happens if somebody changes a file and pushes it up to the server at the other time that another person is working on the same file. And what would happen is when you try to make that push up to the server, it would say that you're not allowed to because there is a newer version of that file on the server. So you need to pull down the latest changes that were pushed up, and that's what you use this pull mechanism in order to get the latest files from the server. And then only then, if the files change, you'd be aware, because you'd see red icons within the different files themselves, and you'd have to change and commit your files or make changes to that file to ensure that you factor in the last person's changes. So this shows you an example of how you can now create files and folders within the administration center under any content managed website, and you can have those files and folders properly tracked using the Git software that is installed on your local machine. So you can see all the changes that have been made, who changed the actual file, what changes they did, if they've added or removed lines for text files. The Tortoise works for also images. For binary files, you may not be able to see the direct differences between the content of the file, but you can see who's changing it and when they changed it, and the comments should tell why they changed it. Additionally, it stops admins from being able to directly change files within the administration center, ensuring that files don't get deleted or removed. And these files can only be downloaded by users within a given content managed website who have authentication. So there's been a couple of permissions that have been set up. So if we go into the user permissions and you go into the websites role and you modify the website role, there's 2 new permissions which allow admins to be able to view and modify version controlled repositories. So admins need to have these permissions enabled or allowed in order for them to be able to pull down Git repositories, push up changes, and be able to view the repositories through both the website's interface and on their local machine. So TOTECS will be using this for our new template masters websites that we'll be producing on an ongoing basis, but you can also use Git repositories for any files within your own business that are consistently being changed and altered on, say, a network drive, which may be more effective to be put into a Git repository. Now, there are limits on the file size that TOTECS is allowed to host. The limit is at 20 megabytes per file. So if you've got bigger files, then I suggest you use a different service such as Dropbox or any of the myriad of drives in the cloud in order to store your files. But for small files such as website related data or CSV files or simple spreadsheeting files, then this is a great way to store and version control and track files being passed around between lots of people using them. If you need to find out more information about how to use Git, and there's many concepts around the Git and using it, using Git repositories, I recommend looking at this Atlassian tutorial. They have a whole set of tutorials on what is Git. It explains the overall concepts about it and how it can change the way you work to be much more effective and efficient, which can save a lot of time and effort. So read through the tutorials and you get a great idea of how it can be useful. The next improvement we added to the TOTECS platform is the ability to show volume discount pricing on content managed sites within product category listing areas and search results listing areas. And this is a great way to entice users to buy more products, since they'll be getting each product for less if they purchase over a certain quantity. So in this case, if we see here, we've got this product, this keg. Normally it's $199 each, but if the user buys 5 or more, then it would only cost them $180 each, or 10 or more, and it's $170, 15 or more, $160. So this entices the user to buy larger quantities because they're getting each product for less. Now, to set this up within the content managed site, if you scroll down to the web area format libraries, we've added a new format underneath the search area types. If we go into the product search results listings, there's a new format called product search record format discount price. And what this format does is it controls how each of the individual volume discount prices displays. So if we open the one that we set up for this page, you can see that it has simply a record that allows you to configure the text that shows, in this case, by a given quantity for a given price. And this can be completely customized. Now, the second step out of that is within the product search record, we've added a new hook to the format. So in this case, the hook's called product volume discount prices. And what this hook will do is get the collection of all the different volume discount pricing formats and bundle them all together into this hook, which can then be shown in one big section within the format. Now the last step is to, for each given area, so product search results listing area or category listing area, is to assign the formats to that. So if we go into our home page and we look at the areas which exist on that, so in this case we've got this thing called local products, and we go into that, into the formats of that area. Now we then assign the product search record volume discount price, and as well as our product search record. With all those ingredients in place, it allows us to now style the area. Now with a little bit of CSS magic, we can put in a label that shows when the volume discounts display, or if there's no volume discounts for a given product, then we can hide that label. And we do that through another hook that has been added to the product search record format. In this case, it is called the product has volume discount prices. Now we append that within the class of the element of the volume discount elements, and then with some CSS rules, we can then choose to hide or show based on if there are volume discounts applied against this product for the given user, or to hide that. So you can write customized CSS that styles how this whole section works. Also note that this isn't just for category listing areas and product search result listings areas, it's for any content managed web page area that uses the product search record. For example, within a model product area, it uses the product search record format in order to list products that are assigned to a given model. So because of that, this product search record volume discount price format is also now added to that area. You can see the list of all the areas that support this volume discount pricing being shown by viewing the documentation within the release notes. Note that for any areas that use the product search record format, if you do not want to show volume discount pricing, then for the product search record volume discount price format, you should assign it to use the blank volume discount price. The platform will detect when an empty or blank format is used to display the volume discount price, and it won't then try to then calculate out and retrieve the pricing. And this may make the pages not loading these areas to be quicker to load. So generally, if you don't need to show volume discount pricing, you want to set a blank volume discount price format using this global area that's already been created for you. If you're unsure how to set up content managed web pages and web page areas, then I'd recommend booking in a service job in order to add this functionality to your content managed website. The next improvement we've added to the TOTECS platform in the 11.01 release is the ability to show attachment files against products that have been added to basket and have been ordered, both within the content managed site, trade interface, and order email notifications. If I look at our Dad's Brewing Company example site at demo.totecs.com, if I go into view cart, there's now the ability to show download links to product attachments for each product that has been added to the basket. This then allows users to click on those links and download those files. So here's an example of an image attachment that I've attached. Now if I go through the checkout process and go to the purchase order details page, I've also been able to set up the download links in the purchase order page. The reason for doing this may be because you've got certain products that users must be able to see instructions or specifications or warnings or other kinds of legal requirements that the user must follow when using this product. Now, the way we can set this up in a content managed website, if we go into the administration center under the websites interface and go into the websites, within the order checkout area types for order checkout submission areas, as well as guest order checkout submission areas and order print form areas, there has been a new format that's been added called product attachment record. Now, what this format does is allows you to completely customize how the link to download the file looks. So in this case, I've put this text called download, and then I've actually put in a anchor that allows the user to click on the link to the file and download it. Now we can see this in effects because this download text has come here and then links are displayed there. So you may not want to use the word download, you may want to use a different word such as show attachment file or attachment information, and where you could then customize that within this format. Now once it's been set, within the order products record format, there's been a new hook that has been added into that called order product attachments, and what this will do, so every file that is associated with a product, it will then link all those format records together and then plonk them into this hook here. So you can customize where you want to appear. So maybe I didn't want the download links to appear under the name. I could have moved them easily to under the code section or under the unit section, or put them in a separate row altogether. So all that is possible using these hooks available in this format. Now with that said, the last piece of the puzzle is to go into a web page that has an area where those formats can be configured. So on our order submission page that we set up for this content managed site, there is this area called a AutoCheckout submission area, where we can then assign those formats to that area. So in this case, I've got my order product record assigned to that, and I've assigned my product attachment record to here. Now, if you don't want to display the attachment files within the order submission areas, then we'd recommend that you assign the blank product attachment record format, which is a global format that has been set, and this tells the server not to even try to get the attachment records, which will make the pages load faster. So you only want to set it to something else if you explicitly want to show product attachments. Showing attachments is not just in order submission areas, you can also show it in the previous orders that have been submitted. So anywhere where the order product record format's been used, there will be now the ability to set the product attachment record. Now that covers the content managed side, but if you want to display product attachment records within the trade interface or within the order email attachment file that gets sent after user submits an order, then you need to go into the stores and go into the order section where a new setting has been added. And the setting is called show product attachment on purchase order. So that needs to be set to yes. And then once again, another setting has been set where you can actually control how the format of those product attachment links look. So once again, you can customize the words that appear within it and the links. And then if I go into open an order and view the details of an order, you can now see there's now links available to download those files associated with that product. So this same format appears on both the order submission email attachments, as well as within the trade interface on the order review page, as well as the order history when a user views the details of the order. The next improvement we've added to the 11.01 platform release is the ability for third-party JavaScript to call pop-ups to be created and hidden on a content managed web page. So this allows third-party developers and partners and ourselves in TOTECS to be able to call a pop-up to appear whenever we need it to happen. So in this case, I've configured in our demo.totexcom website so that when the page first loads, a pop-up will show. And in this case, it's being used to show the latest specials for this kind of beer that's been put on special. So this shows you one example of where this could be used, but it's not just for showing, say, specials. You could have it for when certain categories are clicked on or when certain links are clicked on into the page. Now, in order to get functionality like this working, in the Administration Center under the Websites interface, a couple of things need to be set up. So firstly, we need to set up a global area, which can then be used in order to display the content within that pop-up I just showed you. So I created one called Global Specials. After that, next needs to be some JavaScript, some customized JavaScript written. So here's my JavaScript file that I've written, and what this says is use the Content Managed Web Pages API in order to create a pop-up dialog when the page first loads. Now that needs to be then in the content managed site, needs to be placed into a image library or version controlled repository. So I've created this one called JavaScript or JS where it has my file. Next, I need to then link that file within the template. So I've got this template called home template, which is used on the home page. And that then contains a link to the file in order for it to load. And that runs after the header hook has been set within the content of the template to ensure that those functions in the JavaScript can load. And the last step is to then write some CSS that can style the pop-up dialog itself. So in here, I've got a library called CSS, and within the qs_layout.css file that I created, I've got some rules in here on which control how that pop-up should be styled that I had it appear on the home page. So I've given that pop-up a custom class, and I've set some rules on how it should be, the background should be styled and how the header should be styled, as well as how the close button and the background mask. So all that put together gives you this pop-up dialog where we can customize the colors, the text that displays. You can make it movable if you want to. There's arguments for that. You can have it fixed layout, or you can have it aligned to the left or right of the page, at the top, at the bottom. The JavaScript options are very configurable and tailored to whatever website where it needs to be placed on, as well as hide them. You could have timeouts so that way that they automatically hide after a certain amount of time. It's really up to the developer who's actually writing the JavaScript or the code of how the website works on how they can utilize these pop-ups. Now, it's not just for showing a pop-up in general. There's also other events that we've added to the JavaScript library, so that way when child combination products or when inner products are being selected, then certain events can happen as well. So there's two new improvements into the platform that allow third-party developers to take advantage of all the functionality that the content managed web page libraries provide. And if you want to know any more information about this, I would recommend reading the release documentation, as well as talking to or asking any questions within the TOTECS forums, and we can help you out on how to get started with it. The next improvement we've added to the TOTECS platform is the ability to be able to change the not found images for products and categories, so those are the images. If we look on the demo.totecs.com site, these image not found images. So previously you had to give these images to the TOTECS service team, and then they could upload those files into the correct location on the server. So no longer do you need to do that. Now you can do it yourself through the administration center. If we go into the inventory menu and then go down to the images settings, if we scroll down, a new setting has been added under the product image settings section, and it's here called product not found image. So what you can do is you can browse on your file system in order to find a file that you want to use instead for the product when the product's images don't exist for a given product. So I've got this one called A Not Found 2. So if I do that, click the update button, what it will do is upload that image, and it will resize that image to all the different sizes that are set for product images. So that way it can be sized for thumbs, small, medium, and large images based on wherever different product image sizes are put in place. And the same deal applies for category images. So you can upload a separate image for when a category image doesn't exist. And then that's the image that will display. So it's the same case again. Click the browse button and click the update. You just need to know that this image that you upload has to be a PNG file. And a PNG file can be created in most photo editing applications, such as in Windows Paint, or as well as Photoshop or GIMP or any other image editing tool that's available out there. The next improvement we added is within the content managed website within the guest checkout. So on our demo site, once I've added a product to basket and I go through the checkout process, if I go to the shopping cart page and click on the checkout button, I now get redirected to the guest order checkout area that we've created on a content managed web page. Now the improvement we've made is within the address information. If the country selected was either Argentina, Brunei, Canada, Ireland, Jamaica, Malta, Netherlands, Peru, Somalia, Swaziland, United Kingdom, or Venezuela, now then the guest order checkout will allow the user to put spaces within the postcodes and allow them to proceed through. Now, just so you're aware, so you can turn on countries that users can allow to buy from within the countries and currency setting within the administration center, and then you can then from all the countries you can then choose which ones you want to make possible. So if we think of United Kingdom, we can just find the United Kingdom, and we can enable that country. We can set a currency rate if we were dealing with different currencies with them. And then within the AutoCheckout submission area, once we reload that, then the user has the ability to set United Kingdom, and they can now set a postcode with letters and numbers, which United Kingdom allows, and allows them to proceed through without seeing any error messages. Now continue on to the next improvement. So if an order was paid on a content managed site through with the PayPal payment method, once the user had been redirected to PayPal and put in their credit card information and then redirected back to the content managed website, and then when the order was submitted, so when the user clicked on the submit button, after the order is attempted to be submitted, if the order failed because of PayPal rejected the payment method, such as the credit card that the user had entered, then there is now the ability to show a message as well as display a link in the order failed format that allows the user to be redirected back to PayPal, where they can input a different credit card or other payment method in order to pay for the order. So, and the most likely reason why this would fail was if, for whatever reason, PayPal thought it was a fraudulent transaction with that credit card, or if there was insufficient funds with the credit card that they had set up at the time that the actual payment was made applied against the order. Now, to set this up within the administration center, if we go into the websites interface, under the web area format libraries, under the order checkout area types, in the order checkout submission area as well as the guest order checkout submission area, the order submission failure message format now has two new hooks that have been added, they're called redirect payment failure and redirect payment fail URL. So the redirect payment failure hook will display Y or N, and then you can place that within a class, so that way you can write CSS styling, and then you can decide. Then you can use that to hide or show a PayPal failure message, as well as an anchor, where you can put this redirect payment failure URL into the anchor, and that then allows the user to click on the link. So that would be this link. In this case, I put in the text "go back to PayPal" and change your payment method, but you could set your own text, which is more applicable in your case, using this format. And then for other payment failures, such as if it was unrelated to PayPal at all, you can then choose to hide this message and this link using these available hooks in that area. So by doing this, you're giving the user a second chance to try to submit an order by allowing them to go back to PayPal, fix up the payment issues, and then go through the order checkout submission process again. Now, hopefully this will lead to increased sales, because you're no longer losing people at the time that the order is submitted. The next improvement we made into the platform is to change the handling of cookies, session cookies, and how they expire in web browsers. So just so you're aware, every time you log into a content managed website or the trade interface or the administration center, a cookie is created in the user's browser, and we can see this if we go into the developer tools, and in this case we're in Chrome, and under the application we have these things called cookies, and this shows the session which is stored, so that way that the user doesn't have to keep logging into the platform, that the browser will remember their unique identifier of their session. And the change that we've made now is we've put now an expiry date on that cookie session. And what this means is after a given amount of time, so in this case it's 4 hours, that this cookie will expire in the browser, so that it's equivalent of the browser deleting it. And this is really applicable for when users decide to leave their browser open, say overnight. Previously, this cookie would not expire until the user actually closed their browser, whereas now the browsers will now delete it after a period of time. And now the reason for that is to make sure that the user then has to log in again if their session has expired on the server, and they don't get file not or page not found issues. Additionally, with this new change, it means because we're now setting a fixed expiry date of the cookie, if the user then closes the browser and opens it up again, the session will remain within the browser. So if they accidentally close it and they open the browser again, the user doesn't have to log in again. So it's a slightly change in the previous workflow where if the user closed the browser and opened it again, then they'd have to log in again. So it has also a usability benefit from this change as well. The next improvement we've added is if an order was being paid, or if an order, invoice, or custom payment through the administration was paid with a credit card, if at the time the credit card payment was made and as the payment method was then sent through to TNS, we are now providing TNS with the IP address of the user who's actually making the payment. Now, what this allows TNS to do is then they will look at that IP address of that user. So when you connect to the internet, an IP or a unique address that tells TNS, in this case, where the traffic is originating from within the internet. And they can use that to then find fraudulent computers within the internet, and then they can block payments being made from those computers. So this is a safety mechanism that TNS has added into their system, and TOTECS is providing the IP addresses, so that way we can try to eliminate as many fraudulent ways that that credit card payments may be being made. Now, this occurs both within the trade interface, as we see in here. It also occurs within the administration center under the payments interface. If an administrator decides to make a custom credit card payment and fill out this form, it's also for when users would pay for invoices with credit card payments through the trade interface as well, and through the content managed sites within the account inquiry feature. So this only is applicable for when in the payment settings, when the payment option is set to TNS payment gateway. And after that, I've shown you the bulk of the improvements and new features we added to the platform. There's a few bug fixes that we've added to the platform. And one of those bug fixes, which is most notable, is within the data import. So if a connector data import was running and data was being imported from the connector into the TOTECS system, if one of these imports had failed halfway through the import, then the platform previously may have left data, such as if you're importing products, where half the products would have been marked as inactive and half of them may have not been. And what this would mean is certain products would not show, or maybe a majority of products may not show until the next time a product's data import successfully ran through. So now we've made changes to the data imports so that they correctly roll back or undo all the data changes unless a data import successfully finishes. And it's not just for products, it's all for all the data imports that are listed within the data imports interface here within the administration center. For the rest of the other bug fixes are mostly minor or in normal criticality. So you may want to read through the release notes for any of the bug fixes, and any critical bug fixes we get into the platform as soon as they're found and we have a fix that's ready for them to go out. So that gives you a wrap up of the 11.01 TOTECS platform release. If you have any questions, and then feel free to ask them within the TOTECS Forums, which can be found by going to totecs.com, clicking on the forums link, and then if you scroll down to within the releases, or any of the given forums, and then post any questions about the relevant functionality that you have questions for. If you find any bugs, please fill out the bugs form, which can be found first logging into the platform, then clicking on the bugs forum and clicking on the submit a bug, and there's a link there that allows you to then find the bug form, and then you can fill out any information that is relevant, as well as showing us how you can replicate that issue. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Happy online trading.